So thank you all and welcome to this first masterclass of the AG-WaMED PRIMA project. My name is Giulio Castelli and I'm a researcher at the University of Florence, which is the coordinator of the project. I welcome everyone online and I'm giving the floor to Dr. Marco Orlando for the welcoming session. Marco Orlando is project officer in the thematic area of water management at the PRIMA Foundation, and we are very, very happy to have him for the introductory section to this masterclass, and I hope you will enjoy. I will put again the link of the masterclass in the chat. Thank you very much, and I leave the floor to Dr. Orlando.
Thank you, Giulio. Thank you very much. I hope you can hear me loud and clear. So good morning to everyone. Very happy to be here as well. I mean, this is a very interesting project, so I'm happy that you are, organizing this masterclass today. And please, when you have the recording ready, share it with us as well. We will try to help you with the dissemination of this. And it's also good to, to share some knowledge about the project, which is addressing some very core topics, we could say, that are very close to the heart of the PRIMA strategic research and innovation agenda. So again, my name is Marco Orlando. I'm following this project. I'm the project officer monitoring the water related project at PRIMA. Maybe most of you know what PRIMA is. Some of you may not know what PRIMA is, so I will spend a few words about the program. I will try to give some context also to why this project was selected, why this project was funded. Of course, PRIMA stands for Partnership for Research and Innovation in the Mediterranean Area. This is an initiative that was launched back in 2017 after several years of, let's say, very intense negotiations between its partners. On the one hand, the European Union, and on the other hand, the 19 participating states from Europe, North Africa, and the Middle East. And of course, one of the main aims of PRIMA is to bring researchers, not only researchers, also companies, NGOs, civil society organizations, different types of stakeholders, bringing them together from the two shores of the Mediterranean, so that they can work together with a view, let's say, to address and contribute to solving the challenges that we are sharing in the Mediterranean in the fields of water management and agriculture. So, of course, bringing together scientists and stakeholders of different nature is one of the main aims of PRIMA. We could say an overarching objective of our program. We do it by funding research and innovation projects. And of course, we consider science as a means to bridge the two shores of the Mediterranean. So we could say that PRIMA is a science diplomacy initiative. And of course, events like today's one, like this masterclass, although we are meeting online, it's always very good to have this kind of events, because this is how slowly across the years we are building these bridges, we are building critical mass. As we say, we are fostering collaborations between the researchers of the different countries involved. We are sharing knowledge across the shores of the Mediterranean. So on behalf of PRIMA, really thank you very much for this invitation, to the organizers, for this opportunity to present again PRIMA shortly and to intervene at the beginning of the meeting. Of course, I would like to say something about this project, AG-WaMED. The acronym stands for Advancing Non-Conventional Water Management for Innovative, Climate Resilient Water Governance in the Mediterranean Area. It's, I think, a title which summarizes very well the challenges and opportunities in the field in the Mediterranean. It was selected within the margins of the PRIMA Section 2 Call for Proposals 2021. I remember very well the scope of that call, where we encouraged applicants to establish demo sites in the Mediterranean region to test innovative and sustainable practices that can increase water availability and contribute to better governance to mitigate water scarcity and the related conflicts. This was the main core of the call that we launched in 2021. So, of course, AG-WaMED is fully aligned with these important goals. It's an interesting project. It kicked off about a year ago, from what I remember. It is of course, coordinated by the University of Firenze, Italy, but of course brings together a very Mediterranean partnership with 6 countries, 6 partners from 6 countries, from Algeria, Egypt, Greece, Italy, Tunisia, and Spain, which is very nice because we have what we call the so-called equal footing, good representation of the southern and northern Mediterranean countries. So what I really like about the project is that there's it is based on this approach of having this evidence-based participatory management to develop solutions that can help address water scarcity through shared governance, and these solutions hopefully we will be able to scale them up across the region. And of course, there is this focus on non-conventional waters. We launched several calls across the years addressing conventional waters, including, for example, wastewater treatment and reuse, water harvesting, desalination. We have launched this year a call whose evaluation is ongoing for the holistic management of wastewater. So this is a topic that is very much linked to the core of PRIMA. And of course, we know that to address water scarcity, we also need to valorize non-conventional waters to increase water availability. And this can, of course, feed also into better water management, into better water governance. And, if we are valorizing these resources, we will face less water scarcity and we will be able to, better manage water resources in the region. So, of course, a brief premise just to introduce again PRIMA and AG-WaMED. I will mention in a few words something about the content, the structure and the speakers of this masterclass. I think it's good to acknowledge them. Of course, as Giulio said, we have 3 high-level technical webinars, the last of which I'm very eager I will have to sometimes leave, but I will be following the webinar today. Very interesting sessions. So we will have the first one entitled The Role of Non-Conventional Waters for Mediterranean Water Security, the AG-WaMED approach, presented by the coordinator Elena Bresci from the University of Firenze. And this first webinar will address the importance of unconventional waters for the resilience of Mediterranean water systems, with focus on rainwater harvesting, wastewater reuse, groundwater recharge, and other interesting topics. The second webinar entitled Living Lab Approach for Managing Mediterranean Water Resource. Again, this is a keyword that we have at PRIMA. Having living labs, it's important to have this participatory multi-actor approach to co-develop solutions with stakeholders. So another interesting topic. The speaker will be Mohamed Bahnassi from the University of Alexandria, Egypt. And he will present the methodological contribution of the living labs that the project is implementing. And the third and last webinar, but not least, as anticipated, we will have 2 sessions. The first one about the simulation of groundwater artificial recharge using visual mod flow flex software, case study of Sharia Basin, northeast of Algeria. We will have 3 speakers, Muna Jellali, Omar Gefefia, Shamsuddin Fehdi from the University of Tebessa, Algeria. And the second part of the last webinar, it's going to be about the development of a decision support tool for the management of water resources for sustainable development in the mining basin of Gafsa in southwest Tunisia, with the speaker Fatma Karouli from the Institute of Arid Regions, Tunisia. So very interesting last sessions as well. They will educate us on a very interesting cross-border case study located in a basin shared by Tunisia and Algeria. So, of course, another important theme that we are very interested in, transboundary and managing transboundary water resources. And in this last session, the speakers will tackle some of the modeling strategies that are used in the project. So I think I was meant to finish at 9:30, it's 9:33. We have to speed up a bit. So I will finish here. I'll conclude the introduction. I thank you again for this opportunity to be with you today, and I give the floor to, I think, I'm not sure, Giulio or Elena for the start of the first webinar. Thanks again, and I hope that you enjoy, all of you, this interesting masterclass. Thanks.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Marco. Really clear, and thanks you for show by the foundation in this project. We hope to deliver all of the objective that you have. And without losing time, I'll leave the word to Professor Elena Bresci, who is the project coordinator for PRIMA. And thanks a lot, Marco. You can stay as much as you can and enjoy the masterclass.
Okay, so good morning to everybody. Thank you very much for to Marco Orlando for this introduction, and it has been really a pleasure to host him in this webinar. This is the first of the 3 masterclass that are going to be in the during the project. So the title has been already said, but it's the role of non-conventional water for Mediterranean water security, and we will just talk a little bit on how the project AG-WaMED is going to address the role of non-conventional water, and in particular focusing on the living lab. So we will start with general information on water scarcity and non-conventional water resources, which is the role that non-conventional water resources is having nowadays, and also which one will be in the next future, which are the limitations of non-conventional water use, and also how non-conventional water use is considered in AG-WaMED project. Starting from water scarcity, what can we say? We can say that water scarcity are areas that can be considered with the lack of water, so insufficient water that is available for supporting both human and ecosystem water needs. We can find a lot of definition, but I prefer this one because it highlights the fact that it is not only the insufficiency of water for human needs, but also for the ecosystem, and this is very, very important. We can distinguish water scarcity between physical and economic, and physical is the result of a basic lack of water in terms of water availability. And the economic water scarcity is also important because a lot of areas in the world are affected by economic water scarcity, and it is related with the fact that even if the water could be there or is there, we have a lack of suitable infrastructures that are allowing to have access to that water. So the result is the same because we don't have enough water, but the reason why we don't have enough water is different. And in particular is the fact that there are no infrastructures or that can access and make that water that is available utilizable. And another important concept is that physical water scarcity is not only a natural phenomenon. Obviously it is, because we have arid areas, so we have drought that are affecting more and more areas in the nowadays and the next future, but also is the human activities, so human influences that create conditions for decreasing the water availability. So in terms of land degradation, and so activities that humans are carrying out on the soil that can bring to land degradation and then to desertification, and also in terms of decreasing possibility of storing water. This is a map that is giving us a very clear idea of which are the regions that are affected by water scarcity. And in particular, here we have the reported in different colors the number of months in which water scarcity is higher than 100%, and the red areas are those that are at least, let's say, for 6 months, and the dark red are those with 12 months, so all over the year. And we see how the Mediterranean is very, very clear red. So the Mediterranean is considered in areas that is suffering for water scarcity, and the projections that we may have for the next future is giving us a picture of much more areas affected, or areas that are increasing, let's say, the number of months of water scarcity. So that's why PRIMA focuses on these areas of the Mediterranean, because it's very...
Okay.
Yes? Okay. So what we can say about water scarcity is that is a key challenge for the sustainable development of countries, and is now considered a potential cause of social unrest and conflicts within and between countries. So the conflict for different water uses are obviously within the same countries, but considering transboundaries watershed, these are causing conflicts that are going beyond the boundaries. That's why, for example, in AG-WaMED, we inserted also a transboundary case studies, because we wanted to consider also which would have been the different approach to be used when we have a transboundary watershed. And the water scarcity is impacting also traditional seasonal human migration routes because of changing of behavior. And in terms of global population, water population that is going to already affected by water scarcity are roughly 60%. And so in those areas, water supplies is not able to meet the demand for at least part of the year. In some for all of the year, but in some parts for a minor reduction of duration. And the picture that all the projections are giving is that this situation is going to be much worse. So, and many reasons we may find, and for sure climate change, but also the increasing population that is going to request much more water demands, rapid urbanization, and, for example, also industrialization, depending on the areas. So based on these reasons, the necessity to approach a new source or a new methods for increasing the water supply is mandatory. So non-conventional water resources then today, but not only, it's already seen in the past, but now we are starting to use it more, can be considered as an alternative water resource for not really overcoming, but to try to manage the emergency of water scarcity. So it could be considered as an opportunity for narrowing the water demand supply gap, and it is increasing the use of non-conventional water, and in particular in arid and semi-arid areas, but this is not, it should not be considered as a result, but only as a starting point. So what I want to say is that we are assisting to the increasing in water resource, in non-conventional water resources use, but obviously we would like to be more used. Which is the difference between conventional and non-conventional water resources? Conventional water resources we are used to have a clear idea of which are those resources. So these are represented by here the hydrological cycle. So these are resources that are commonly utilized, so like snowfall, rainfall, or runoff, and also groundwater. So these are renewable resources that are within the hydrological cycle, even if affected in terms of quantity, but they are available every year. Even that we know, for example, that with the as effect of climate change, for example, and changing rainfall patterns, we have more runoff and then more discharge, and reduce, for example, infiltration and then percolation for recharging groundwater. But we have every year, let's say, water that can be renewed through the hydrological cycle. These resources, conventional resources, are already overexploited and are now recognized as not having enough quantity for satisfying the demand. So, which are then non-conventional water resources? Are those that have not been traditionally used. So we can find many definitions. For example, the one is this one. Another one is that is more focused on the fact that those water resources in general require processes. So specialized processes and treatment for being used. And in general, they are not then accessible for consumer through conventional means. Then we need to consider that they are not really as easily to be used as conventional water. The history of the definition we can find since the early 80s, and they were more focused on the treatment on which this water would have been undergo. And nowadays we have other, let's say, additional definitions that has been found, but more the idea is that with non-conventional water we refer to waters that have quality and quality that is in some situations need to be treated or need to be adjusted because their say, conventional use is not appropriate. Here there is a sketch that has been taken by a review published in 2022 that give us a clear picture of how many types of different non-conventional water are now existing. So we can see here with this picture that adding these 12 non-conventional water resources, we can maybe have a better and a smiling picture in terms of water supply. So what means that with these 12 types, we can really increase the availability and then try to reduce the gap that is existing between the demand and the availability. So which are these 12? Rainwater harvesting, dew water harvesting, and fog water harvesting. So water harvesting in general is classified as non-conventional water, and these are water that in general are not requiring specific treatments. Then we have cloud seeding, virtual water, iceberg water, agricultural drainage water, artificial recharge, fossil water, wastewater treatment, desalinated water, and gray water. So you see that with this review, the authors found which have been the research that have been published before and referring to this non-conventional water. So this is a very clear picture of how many possibilities we may have in considering non-conventional water resource as a really water resource. And here, taken the same from the same review, we see some of them. We have only 8 of them of this type of water resource that are used or are used as reference in some countries. And we see also highlight in this circle that the Mediterranean is an area where non-conventional water use is represented. So we have artificial recharge, we have fog water, we have dew water, we have virtual water, and so on, and rainwater, obviously. So these are a picture that clarify that we have examples of the use of non-conventional water all over the world. And in particular, more examples are obviously where we have water scarcity. We can say that this can be an opportunity to be used and to be explored, but obviously we really need to keep in mind that we have some limitations. And I think that one that is very important is related with the place, so a geographic limitation. So we have the possibility of using some non-conventional water only in some areas. For example, fog and dew harvesting, we need to have places where fog is forming. So these are both geographic and climatic conditions that are put together and allow the formation of fog and dew. So in that case, we are not able to use fog where obviously we don't have the condition or geographic and climatic conditions that will be able to have fog. So the geographic limitation is already making, I would say, some kind of limitations on the 12 types of examples that we found. In some areas, we have also the overlapping, for example, fog and dew. So fog and dew are very often in the same place. Some are used only in certain contexts and in particular as a function of the use that we have to do with the water supply. And some example are some type of non-conventional water are is important to take into consideration that are requiring legislative frameworks that are imposing some limitation in the use because it could be dangerous, for example, for the environment or also for the people. So we need to take into consideration that we are not allowed to use every type of non-conventional water wherever, but we need to consider that as a function of the availability and the quality, we can explore one type more than another one. Even if the non-conventional water resource use is worldwide increasing, so we have more examples compared to the past, this is something that it is not already entered into the system. Why? Because we are still, let's say, not very comfortable to explore all the potential that non-conventional water is having. So this is still underexplored. And this is both from related with the scientific research, but also and more by political barriers. I would say that we have some barriers in the implementation, in the use, that really it would be necessary to go and to explore more and try to make the use much easier. In this context, we had this project AG-WaMED that has been financed for 36 months. It started in September 2022 and it will go up to August 2025. And we have University of Florence is the coordinator. And we have living labs, so case studies that we are running in the field in different countries, in particular in Italy, Algeria and Tunisia for the transboundary watershed that we are approaching, Spain and Egypt. And what the main aim was try to provide management solution to water scarcity governance that can be upscaled at Mediterranean level. So we want to apply the approach in this 4 living lab and then see how this approach is upscalable, obviously with the having clear in mind that some type of non-conventional water are limited in the use, as we said, as a function of the country. We have Italy as partner, we have Spain, Tunisia, Egypt, Greece, Algeria, and also the Netherlands that is participating in kind. So the methodology that we propose and we are applying is basically based on the modeling approach associated with the participatory approach in the field. So we are experimenting the use through the or modeling, let's say, the use of non-conventional water use and how this additional water resource can bring much more volume available, and how this can benefit for its use mainly for agricultural purposes. So the and then it is also associated with the possibility of creating policy and for a better governance on the use of the non-conventional water. The models that we are going to use are SWOT for hydrological models and WAPA in Spain, and what needs for the experimentation of the new crop allocation related with the increased volume of water that we may have available. Different indicators are going to be identified and utilized for describing, let's say, the different scenarios that are coming from the optimal water allocation. And the participatory approach is fundamental because we want to involve the stakeholders, the main stakeholders for each case studies, and make them at the center of all the decision activities. So first they are going to be interviewed and they are going to be considered as the source of information that are going to be considered. And once the models are run, we will go back again with the stakeholders for trying to see how this solution can be considered valid, accepted, and let's say evaluated. So these back and forth activities with the stakeholders we thought is fundamental and is crucial in the case of adding non-conventional water use in the case studies. These are the case studies, as I said, Italy, Spain, Tunisia, and Egypt, and which are the non-conventional water that we are testing. So in Italy, managed aquifer recharge and water harvesting, Spain, wastewater and managed aquifer recharge, Tunisia, managed aquifer recharge, and Egypt, wastewater use and desalination. The Living Lab of Italy is in Tuscany, and in particular in Siena, between Siena and Grosseto province, is the Orcia watershed belonging to the Ombrone watershed, and is an area that it is very important in terms of tourism and also high quality products like wine and wine especially. And the problems that they are suffering is the not enough water that for irrigation, because we recognize that these some of these farms, and in particular winery, are going to switch to an irrigated winery because of having, or the necessity of having, high quality of wine. So we visited two different wineries with during the kickoff meeting that we held in December, and we saw and we visited the small reservoir that these two, Il Poggione and Castello Banfi, have as water resource, additional water resource for the irrigation. In fact, Castello Banfi is a vineyard that is started, let's say, in the late 70s, and they have 5 water reservoir that has been created in the past, and they are using that water for irrigation. And the same Il Poggione, they have 2 water reservoirs, and they are the same, a similar structure for the previous one. A small focus on the small reservoirs in Italy, how they are so important, and now why they are starting to have much more importance, not only for irrigation, but also for let's say climate change adaptation. So small reservoirs in Italy are those that have an height of the dam less than 15 meters and a volume less than 1 million cubic meter. And the measure has been realized during the 60s and the 70s because of financial support that has been given mainly for agricultural uses. But the problems for farmers that they are facing is the maintenance of these small reservoirs, because siltation is one of the biggest problem, and obviously the reduction of the volume is creating problems in the utilization or for the accumulation of water that would have been utilized or useful. And also then very often they are abandoned because farmers not have enough support, or they don't have enough money to invest for rehabilitate those small reservoirs. And an inventory of these small reservoirs in Italy is not really updated, because we have, for example, in the late 90s, more than 8,000 small reservoirs, and today we have a very huge interval of numbers, so we don't have really a clear picture. So we have some activities running for trying to make an inventory, but it is not still definitive, and because of the difficulties of making of this inventory at the national level of all these reservoirs. In Tuscany, just a small picture, we have more than 2,000, and the highest percentage is having a volume between 10,000 and 30,000. And the highest, as we said, they have been built between 70s and 80s, 90s, and that's it. Regarding the outcomes that we had from the first workshop that we run within the AG-WaMED project with the stakeholders, some really crucial points came out, and these are important for us for going on with the project. For example, it has been recognized that farmers in the area of the orchard areas are aware of the effect of climate change, and they are already adapting. They are using or applying adapting measures for trying to make them more resilient to the effect. They would like to more collaborate with the research and institution for knowing better, or be trained, or receive more details or suggestion by the communities or the scientific communities for make them better used. They are, farmers are organized in association for exchanging knowledge and resources, and also the water management institution, in particular land reclamation institution, are present on the territory and are very collaborative with the farmers. So this is a picture that is going to help us to considering which is the awareness of the farmers in terms also of using water harvesting a small reservoir. The weaknesses that came out from this participatory workshop were related with the difficulties in managing the small reservoirs, and in particular they pointed out the complex regulation that are now ongoing in Italy for building but also restoring existing ponds. They have been neglected from the institution for more 40 years, and now with these problems of drought and flood that we are having, they are now arising the interest because of the possibility of using those small reservoirs also as a strategy for flood protection and drought protection. The restoration of these reservoirs are very expensive, and then farmers are not willing to do that unless they have some kind of support in financing it. In those areas, there are no policies of common irrigation, so each farmer is independent. They highlight also the importance of a groundwater monitoring, so the possibility of having a much more useful or possibility of using the groundwater level monitoring for seeing how at which depth we have the aquifer. Difficulties in citing the new eventual water structure that they would like to create. The concessions are often refused or not renewed, for example, for well utilization. And they are feeling not long-term planning. So the feeling is always to have some in emergency and not in the long term trying to do or to build something. So the result of this workshop, as I said, is for us very important for considering those information as input for our model step that we are starting, or we have in some situations already started. This is the website of the AG-WaMED and the social account, Facebook and Twitter. So please, if you want to have being updated, just consider that as a source of update where we collect information and we spread the information. These are our context, and I'm stopping here. So I hope to have given enough and not too much long presentation. And I'm open to any questions that you would like to post. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Bresci, for the presentation. Just a quick reminder for all the participants, if you have questions, please type them in the chat and we will report them to Professor Bresci so that she can answer. Thank you.
No question? No question yet? Is there a question?
No, just up to now, just they ask to share the presentation.
Yes, for sure. The presentation will be shared. Maybe we can put it in the, I don't know if we can download from the directly from the website. It would be easier to put there the material. For me, there will be no problem to make it available, obviously. And if there are no questions now, but if anything you would like to be considered in or described in much more details, just let us know or let me know, and we will try to make some answers. Not now, maybe, because I don't know. If there is no questions, I think we can go on or make the pause for waiting for the following webinar. I have here. Can you wait a bit more on how you engage with pharmacy institution and how you collect it into understand? Okay. So thanks a lot. Thanks a lot for these questions. And so the engagement of the stakeholders has been done actually from the beginning, some of them we had a letter of support when we presented the project, because we recognize that the involvement of stakeholders since the beginning is fundamental. So we had the availability of some of them, like for example the land reclamation or the authority for the Arno River, and then we have the CHIA, so the association of some of farmers. These were some of those, and the two wineries factories. So those were the ones that started from the beginning, and starting from these 5, we went with some kind of let's say advertising. So we asked them which if they would have be available in participating in the activities related with AG-WaMED. So we invited them. We had some answers. We had added the Tuscany region or some provinces, representative from provinces of Siena and Grosseto, and we organized this workshop in a place that was Pieve Assalti, and we stayed there one morning actually, and we discussed it. And we let them talking. In particular, we just presented the project, but very briefly, and we sit at different tables, and we discuss it, and we try to have let them talking. And after that, we collected the information with, for example, some post-it, and we make the analysis, in particular the SWOT analysis, so strength, weakness, and so on. And those that participate are, let's say, parts of future activities, because we will do very shortly a second workshop where we will update on what we have done up to now, and we will try to have more information from them. So the approach is not at all top down, but is bottom up, because those that are working in the field are those that are giving us the input for what we are experimenting in the project. I hope to have clarified. Eleonora, if you want to add something, maybe because you run this, but
yeah, actually, I was reading the like a sort of reply of Dr. Orlando in the chat, who was raising some like trust issues with the stakeholders that may be not willing to get involved, and sometimes we also faced this issue, but actually, thanks to the involvement of let's say well-known and I would say big associations, which are trusted and respected by farmers and several stakeholders, we could overcome this issue, and we had like a good response, good feedback from several stakeholders, and we hope to increase also the trust and the links between the several stakeholders, thanks to the involvement of already known and respected key stakeholders, let's say.
And the important thing is that the list of stakeholders is open, okay, is dynamic, in the sense that we started obviously with some, but we are really willing to have them to have more on board. So the process of, let's say, recruiting new stakeholders is ongoing for all the duration of the project. We are not satisfied to remain with those that we have already. We ask them also to sign a letter, because it is important to testify that they are participating in the project, and they can go out whenever they want. This is also important because the participation is free for them. I mean, we are not giving anything to them. We only invite them to have lunch for that in the workshop, but really most of them, they went away because obviously time is precious. So they stayed for us they stayed with us 3 hours, and then I said, I'm sorry, we need to go. So this is important. Is a very important signal because for them it is important to be with us, even if we know that, or they know that we are not giving anything to them. Back.
We have another, I actually don't know if it's a punctualization or a question, but Feti Abdelli from Tunisia is asking if is saying that the definition and separation within conventional and unconventional water is specific for this project, where it is an universal separation that can be used everywhere. So if I correctly understand...
No, it's not for a project, obviously. It is a general distinctions, and I used the review because the great work that these authors made is to take the scientific publication up to, let's say, 2021. So those 12 categories are categories that are now recognized as non-conventional water use, but obviously the most common are not 12. We have a reduced number of non-conventional water that we are more familiar with, okay? So for sure, water harvesting, managed aquifer research, and so on.
Are there any other questions for Professor Bresci? From the chat, it seems like no. So shall we do a 10 minutes break and restart at 10:30?
Yes, Eleonora, thank you. I will follow the program, so the next session will be at 10:30. I'm going to block the record and we will do another one. So on the YouTube page of the project, you will have the 3 interventions separated. And yeah, I thank everybody. Also, it's good to see that the number of people is increasing. So that means that we are doing some good dissemination online, and please follow our accounts. I will put them in the chat. And then thanks a lot, and we meet in 10 minutes.